Lionel Messi then, because it was a big 5-0 win over Orlando. It's been a good start to the season for Inter Miami. Do you think, Janusz, that teams are going to be playing with that little bit of apprehension and fear because it's Messi and his gang basically into Miami? Do you think they already come into it with that fear factor?
Well, I don't know teams, but I think individual players do. I mean, it's just normal. I mean, he has done this throughout his career, right? I mean, we all know what he can do, and the fact that he's a bit slower these days. I think with the type of player that he is, I don't necessarily think it's a bonus, because what he does standing, I always, I'd rather have a player running at me, although that's much easier with him either when he decides to do that, right? But he's such a brilliant player that no matter where he pops up, and he's got a freedom to be just about anywhere. I think everybody recognizes the quality. Every player recognizes the fact that he himself or everybody else around him could be embarrassed by such a great player. So, I don't necessarily think that it's a fear that everybody talks about, but it stays in the back of every player's mind or team's mind.
Because, I feel that obviously because you've got the likes of Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, Lionel Messi, age is talked about a lot when it comes to Inter Miami. But aside from the age point of view, do you think there's anything else that could hold Miami back this season?
Well, for as long as majority of these players stay healthy, I think they're going to continue to be favorites. Because, if you look at Messi right now, I mean, it's certainly about Messi, but it's about the environment that's being created for him, because everything is perfect for him to play well and to be happy. Because we're talking about Messi, but we've seen, of course, what Suarez does with Alba. You have an environment, where Busquets, as we've seen already last year when Messi came in, and even in Barcelona, Busquets, all he does is look for Messi. 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, right? I mean, constantly. So if you play like Messi, going to get the touches on the ball. There's never going to be an issue of when to get it and how to get it, right? You have that. You have Jordi Alba, with whom he's had an incredible relationship, and he's had a relationship not just with Alba, but Dani Alves, even though he doesn't play there. As we know, the fullbacks are very important for him. And Suarez, with whom he's best friends, right? He's had a relationship with him. It's sort of, not so much scarier, because you saw those assists from Luis Suarez. I mean, that's incredible. If he continues to start crossing the balls, not just finishing, that's an added bonus. And those that paid attention to Suarez, like I did at Liverpool, I mean, you have two players that can find each other telepathically. And it doesn't even have to be a good ball, because Luis Suarez is maybe the best in the world. You can pass the ball at his neck and he finds a way to either score or bring it down. So, and now you have Tata Martino, you have a couple of other South American or Argentines on the team. Francisco Redondo's coming in. He seems to be an exciting player. Now with DeAndre Yedlin leaving, that gives him room to spend some more money. Guess what? Chances are it's going to be a player that's going to fit in perfectly with that. So I give credit to Inter, because they are creating an environment around Leo Messi. So it's not just about Leo Messi. He certainly is going to take care of business himself. But I think that, I'm not going to sit here after 2 games and say absolutely Inter Miami are going to win it. But if they stay healthy, they're going to be up there. The playoff system, of course, changes things, and how difficult it is to travel and all that. You never know, but they continue to stay favorites. They haven't even played well. And look, I mean, 3 games. No, for them.
3 games. Yeah, there was a draw and 2 wins.
Well, for them, they started early, right? It's 2 games for everybody else. And, they're sitting pretty. Not even playing great.
Well, what does that say then about MLS? Is it like, where's the balance? Is it an indictment on the league that Messi and co are favourites at their age and can walk through it? Or is it more to the point that we're talking about true greats, where because it's those true greats in a team, this is why we are seeing what happens, and this is why people are predicting them to be favourites?
Look, as I've said, it's a Messi League soccer. And I don't think that's necessarily great. But I when you really sit down and think about that, I mean, the league needs that. Because if it's not Messi, I mean, who are we talking about, right? If it's true in general that this league wants to get better, wants to be recognized around the world, then the league itself, after 29 years, I think they've put themselves on the map. But there's never going to be a time, at least in my lifetime, that we're going to be talking about Major League Soccer as top 5, 6, 7 leagues in the world. It's just not going to happen. The only way that happens is if the best players are playing here. And that's, I don't see that anytime soon. although I hope for that. So, Lionel Messi is great. He's proven that just about everywhere, right? I think, as I've mentioned, bringing in that environment around him it's superb, because you saw Messi without a positive environment for him in Paris Saint-Germain, right? I mean, he didn't play well because obviously, every player wants to be happy, and he wasn't happy there. Didn't have the players, didn't have the sort of supporting cast that he wanted, with the exception of Neymar, maybe. Everything else was blah. Because why? He didn't even want to be there in the first place. So is it indication of the league? To a degree, of course it is, because that's the only thing that we're talking about, right? Somebody sent me a YouTube thing about, Major League Soccer on YouTube in terms of hits. And it's like, highlights of Major League Soccer, it's like 35,000. And highlights of Lionel Messi is like 1.5 million. That tells you everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, and here we are talking about him on the regular.
But I don't know that the leagues, I don't, to a degree, it's not the league's fault. They wanted that. They are getting recognition for it. And I suppose, I don't know, if I looked at that when he was in La Liga, chances are that was the same. It was him or Cristiano Ronaldo. I can't imagine that he wasn't by far the sort of player that everybody wanted to see. So I don't necessarily think that's just down to Major League Soccer.
We've got to talk a little bit about Luis Suarez, because I feel last time out there were his critics who came out saying he didn't look so great, but obviously he had 2 goals.
Run the tape. I knew he was going to come good after 1 week.
Like you were saying, you're just a player that you followed that whole time. That this is a player of pure quality. Obviously, every player gets older, but you stuck by him, Janusz.
Well, I mean, I stood by him, A, because I like him. B, I recognize that he's not the same Luis Suarez, but I also knew that he's got to get a little bit in shape. It's only 1 week in. I mean, it's in terms of finishers, I mean, he's, here we are talking about the Harry Kanes, Erling Haalands, and, I mean, Erling Haaland be lucky, in my opinion, to be talked the way, for example, Suarez has been. I mean, Haaland's a pure finisher. We've seen it. I mean, he misses. I mean, just the misses in the last 2 or 3 weeks from Haaland. Imagine Suarez. I mean, that's a finish. Almost every one of them is a finish, right? So technically superb, as I've said. One of the few that players like me at the lowest level, right, would wish to have a player like that, because any ball you put up there, chances are he's going to do something with it, right? I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff with Luis Suarez. So in this league, of course, with Lionel Messi next to him, with Busquets, Alba, and all the other players around him, I just think that he's still going to be fine. I think he's going to get himself fit if he stays healthy. The instincts don't go away. And I think last game was a good example of that, because, they demolished what I think is a pretty good Orlando team. I mean, basically, they walked the game. And Luis Suarez, all of a sudden, those instincts kicked in. That's why I think in this league, I have no worries about him scoring goals or delivering the sort of balls that he did.
All right, last question then. Obviously, 34-game regular season in MLS. For Inter Miami, how many games do you think they'll lose this season?
8 to 10 at most.
8 to 10.
Yeah, I just threw it. Almost doesn't, with the playoff system. It doesn't really matter it just doesn't matter, because they will, with that cast, they will automatically be in the playoffs. And when that happens, then it's a totally different ball wax. It's a different tournament, and it's a little bit of lag. But I think that, that's when Inter Miami, I think at the very least, I mean, the antennas for the players that we've mentioned are just going to go up then. Just very much like the Leagues Cup, right? When he first came in, the worst team in the league, it was something on the line. So I worry a little bit going from game to game and the grind of Major League Soccer for the likes of Messi's and Suarez, the distances they're going to have to travel. We're going to get the weather factor, right? I mean, thank God they weren't in Salt Lake the other day playing in snow, but the humidity that they're used to, of course, in Miami, but that's going to kick in. And I think there are going to be games where, the older legs, they're going to pay the price for that, right? Because the brilliance is not going to be there for every game. in such a long season and such a grueling season. But I just think that it's getting to the playoffs. That's where the antennas of the winners of everything there is to be won in the world, everything, that experience will pay dividends. Now, if it's going to be enough to win the whole thing, you need a little bit of luck too. And there's going to be teams there are teams there that are better balanced than them. But if the front three or four, the players that we're talking about, play up to their level, then it's going to be difficult. They're going to have to win it from the front. But then again, that's Major League Soccer. It's one from the front for the most part, right?
Well, we'll keep following it as always.